Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of FPL Apprentice. This is now episode 54. Thanks for any newcomers and for those that have been with us. But this is still the only podcast and series that delves into mind of one of the greatest ever players to play the FPL game. That is, of course, Matthew Corbridge, 9 in the game, 8 times top 25k finishes, 6 times top 10k, 5 top 5k, and former world #1 on FPL tools. The eagle-eyed amongst you will notice Matt can't be with us today. He has got to work, but I do have all the information from Matt in terms of his thoughts, his transfers, and his ideas on the topics we're going to talk about. But we'll start where we always start, which is a review of last game week. Now, Matt has promised me this isn't the reason he's not showed up. He did have a poor game week. I won't go through it in too much detail on Matt's side. Mainly tell you about the things he was frustrated with. Firstly, starting with that injury to Son. He only brought him in last week, so to see him out was very disappointing. Meant he got Semenyo off the bench for just the 1 point there. Also very disappointed in Haaland, despite his goal, no bonus, and 1 goal from an expected goal data of 2.33. Was fairly frustrating, especially for guys that most of the non-Haaland owners would have ended up on Mo Salah, who got 10, or Mbumo, who got a massive 15. So, another frustrating point for Matt. And, Foden as well, somebody that he recently bought in, just not delivering. Played in the Cup as well in midweek, again, not delivering, same as Solanke. Long story short, Matt was very disappointed with his game week. A game week rank of 8.2 million is never good. 45 points for the week, seeing a red arrow. I've put green, very much a red arrow from 2.3 million to 3.1 million. So disappointing game week. I, on the other hand, had pretty much the smallest green arrow in the game that I think I've ever had. I moved up by a massive 30,000 places. So rounding it, I moved from 1.5 million to 1.5 million. Defense poor. Great to see Edison finally return a clean sheet. Good expected data from Man City in terms of the defense. So good to see that finally come in. In terms of my transfers, I should have said Matt rolled. So his didn't touch on any transfer there. From my side of things, I made 2 transfers. I moved Saka out for Palmer. That ended up being 1 point better off. Saka did score, but ended up on 9 points because of the bonus, whereas Palmer got 3 bonus and ended up on 10 points. So 1 point up from that. And my second transfer was Havertz out, who only got 2, and I bought in Wissa. Great to see him get 10 points for a goal, and then what was given as an assist, and then a bonus point. Probably all aware that he has now been given the goal by the Premier League. Really frustrating as an owner of Wissa, because he'd have got an extra point for the goal rather than the assist. And we all knew it was on target. It was obvious that it was going to be Wissa's goal. So why it took so long is beyond me. But not going to get those points back. And the extra goal would have probably seen him go to 2 bonus points as opposed to 1. So that's cost me 2 points due to poor FPL, and I guess from the poor, not the FPL, shouldn't blame FPL, poor Premier League trying to class that as an own goal. Other points, DCL really annoying me. I feel unlucky this week. DCL did score, but it was offside. Palmer also scored, again offside, and then Chelsea won a penalty that ended up being overturned by VAR. So I could have had more points there, but DCL's expected goal involvement 0.14 in a home game. I know he's still got nice fixtures, but I'm really starting to lose patience with him. But it's about it for the game week. Nothing much more to talk about. Maddison ended up getting subbed off early again, half time. Not half time, a little bit beyond half time this time. Managed to scrape in 60 minutes, ended up on 63 minutes. But the big news for both me and Matt is how bad is that injury to Gabriel, because that could then determine our transfers. But on my watch list for exiting, Calvert-Lewin, definitely. And Maddison, just because he feels like he's out of favour at the club there. And maybe Haaland, but we'll come on to that. Looking at the mini league, just to let everybody know where we're up to, that we are now on 75 that have joined the league. And up at the top is Ahmed. You've been there before, Ahmed, I believe. So welcome back to the top of the league, battling it out there. Jacob's dropped down to 3rd. but still very tight at the top. 611 for Ahmed after a game week rank points of 69. Arwen, who's also been top, on 606 with a game week score of 68. And then to finish that top three, Jacob, who was top, has dropped down, got 56 for the game week, leaving him on 604. So my maths is correct. I'm about 72 points off the top. So a little bit of work to do there, but well done to everybody's in that is in the top 10. To just so you know where me and Matt are out, as the 75 that I'm in the league, I am 46th. So a little bit outside of the top half. Yeah, kind of the top of the bottom half, I guess, is how I would look at that. Matt is 62nd. He's pretty unhappy with that score, of course, but that's too good not to come back. So we'll see how that is. But if anybody wants to join the league, the code is on the screen. For those that are listening and can't see it, is T for Tango 27 ZGC Zulu Golf Charlie. So join the league. As I say, every week we'll probably bring we'll do something for the winner. Don't know what it is yet, but we'll come up with that as the season goes on. There's still 29 game weeks to work that out. Moving on to the fixture ticker, there is a bit of a change in the teams at the top here. So looking at the defensive fixture, Man United at the top now. Changing manager, obviously. Ten Hag has gone. Ruud van Nistelrooy's come in, has managed one game, and it was the League Cup, but a very convincing performance against Leicester. But there could be a new manager bounce here. United's defence. We spoke about this last week when we were speaking about Dalot. Man United's defence has been steady. It's been probably under the radar, but Dalot as a player, if we just focus on him, has the second most clean sheets behind with 4. Top is 5, and that's Trent and Virgil van Dijk. Suppose Dalot's third, right? But nobody else other than Van Dijk and Trent have more clean sheets than Dalot. He's also, looking at last week when we were speaking about him, right up there for defenders in terms of expected points, because he does have attacking threat. So he's third. He's third for expected points amongst all defenders. With them being top of this fixture ticker, and maybe you might want to consider waiting for that Chelsea game to go. But then he's got Leicester, Ipswich, Everton in the next 3. So there's real opportunities there for 2, maybe even 3 clean sheets. So I think that is somebody that's worth having a look at. And the Wolves in second. Now their fixture run becomes very nice. So straight off the bat, Palace and Southampton at home, Fulham away, not great, but not horrific. And then Bournemouth and Everton. And then West Ham, again, they're not quite performing. So it's a nice run of 6 fixtures. And Nori has had 3 attacking returns in the last 4 game weeks. So he is looking very good as well. Now, looking since game week 4, so the last 4 game weeks at the Wolves side, Nori has gained 25 points. So we're looking at over 6 points a game now. So very much an interesting one. His expected points is 18.61. So yeah, he is overperforming it. But even at 4.5 million, if you're getting an average expected points of 4.5 per game with those fixtures, I think that's worth a punt. From an attacking point of view, Wolves are also at the top, and Cunha is probably the person to look at. Well priced. Again, his expected points pretty decent, 21.09. His actual points are 22, and for a £6.5 million striker, 22 points over 4 game weeks, so just shy of 6 a game week, is a pretty decent return. And these fixtures, you've got to think that's just going to increase. Same again: Palace, Southampton, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham. Cunha can score against any of those sides. Man United are of interest to me as well at this point, because I'm looking at new manager bounce. I'm looking at the players that maybe have good expected data, but might not be converting. People like Garnacho, and again in that fixture run, I've got to think that these players are going to get points. Might be a hold and wait and see to see if and when the new manager does come into play, or Van Nistelrooy ends up taking them on. But yeah, I think there's something in that new manager bounce, which I think he proved. He scored 5 in the first game. Ten Hag wasn't there. So something to keep an eye on. Haaland, is it time to sell him? I thought it'd be worth comparing Haaland from his first 5 fixtures to the next 4. So game weeks 1 to 5, and then game weeks 6 to 9 ahead of this weekend. And he's 15.4 million. He's done nothing but go up in price. But his output has fallen pretty dramatically. So yeah, 63 points in the first 5 game weeks, and in the 4 following, 12. So averaging 3 points per game. For him, horrific. Expected points has also dropped. So he was getting an expected points in the first 5 of 47. So that's just over 9 or nearly 9.5 per game. In the next 4 games, it's been 21. So we're looking at just over 5 per game. So that's a big drop. And you can see why. His expected goal involvement per game, 1.19 in the first 5 fixtures, 0.84 in the next 4. But, caveat, he is underperforming. So you'll see he should have got 21 points and he's only picked up 12. And he was massively overperforming previously, got 63 points from expected of 47. Is it a blip? Only time will tell, but the fixtures, I'm not convinced, right? And I say that because if you look at the fixture ticker from Fix that we were showing just a minute ago, Man City are bottom of that fixture ticker from an attacking point of view. And, Bournemouth away is not horrific, but Brighton away not easy. Tottenham, Liverpool, Forest, who we have seen cause real problems at Chelsea and for Liverpool, are then the next 4. So yeah, I can see a reason to move off him. And speaking to Matt about this, Matt is probably looking at game week 12 as a way he can move away from him, and that is the Tottenham game. Now he does bring a caveat with that, which I'll come on to when I'm looking at Matt's potential future team. But Matt can say away from Haaland. But give it the Bournemouth game as a minimum, especially if you're going to have to take a hit. You don't want to take a hit to take Haaland out when he's got Bournemouth. But is it time to sell him? Well, yeah, if this trend continues, 0.84 expected goal involvement per 90 is a solid expected return. But for a 15.4 million player, I don't think it's worth it. It's you get players like Watkins getting that sort of expected return, and he's 6 million less. So yeah, something to consider. Defender wise, I thought it'd be worth bringing up potential replacements here for Gabriel replacements. So just in case he happens to be out, it's good to know who you can get in his place. And I brought up, plays that we spoke about last week, which was Gabriel, Trent, and Dallo. And you can see Dallo's strength in those expected points and actual points being scored over the first 8 game weeks or 9 game weeks, should I say. Really strong, matching Gvadio, but he's 1.1 million less. He's actually got better expected goal involvement data than Gvadio. So, yeah, he's going under the radar a little bit. I think people are starting to pick up on how good Dallo is, but well, it's the top of the fixture ticker. He's probably one that's worth a punt. Saliba, some people might be tempted just to go straight from Gabriel to Saliba, and now that he's back from his suspension. But the 4 people on this screen, let me just talk to you about the expected points this season. Trent is number 1 with 51.84. Gvardiol is 3rd, and Dallo after the weekend is actually now 5th. If you're interested, Digne's 2nd, and Gabriel's 4th. Saliba is 57th. And you can see why. His expected goal data is 0. He's got 0 for expected assist and 0 for expected goals. So Gabriel's points expected are all coming from how good he is at attacking set pieces. Saliba is way behind, 57th for expected points for an Arsenal centre-back who were the best defence in the league by far last season. So I don't think he's a route. I really don't. The data isn't there. And if Gabriel is out, that's a weaker centre-back pairing for him. Probably Ben White comes across maybe, which again, he's a solid player, but that's not who he's built a partnership with. So I don't think for 6 million, he's worth the punt. I'd very much go for Dallo for 0.9 cheaper, better fixtures, and has proven this season that he's got better expected returns. So yeah, that's probably where I would look at that. Now, we touched on the fixture ticker before. Nori might also be worth it. Over the last 4 game weeks, he's 5th for expected points. He's got good fixtures for the next 8 game weeks, so he can be very much a long-term hold. Might be worth having a look at him. And then Porro. Matt mentioned Porro last week. He's 8th for expected points overall. Tottenham at 8th on the ticket. Wolves are 5th, if I didn't say that. Sorry if I repeated it, but I'd be looking at, personally, Nori, or I'd be very tempted by Dallo after the Chelsea game. But yeah, that's where I'd be for that. Captain option. If you've got Salah, go Salah. Simple as that. Salah is by far the best option ahead of Haaland, which doesn't really happen too often. But you'll see he's got expected points of 7 ahead of Haaland 6.6. Probably because he's a home game. He's a home to Brighton, whereas Haaland's away at Bournemouth. But you'll see the expected goals conceded for those clubs. Bournemouth have been a more assured defence this season, and they're playing at home as opposed to Brighton that will be playing away. So I think if I had both, for the first time in a long time, I'd go with Salah. He seems to be on form, but Matt does send a word of caution with Salah. His expected data hasn't been all that. He's been saved by 2 penalties in recent weeks. So just something to consider there. But I think I'd still do it. You know, the other people on the list, Palmer is away at Man United. I think with that new manager bounce, probably a dodge from a captaincy point of view, even if the Man United defence so far, compared to the other clubs, has probably had better expected goals conceded data. And then Son, could be injured, could start on the bench. We won't know until the presses tomorrow on Friday. But yeah, I think if you're looking at this, go Salah. If you don't have Salah, you've probably just got to stick and hope that Haaland finds some form back. Looking at the differentials, GW10 is postponed, so this will finish at 4-4. I managed to get the win. We both picked players a bit different. Wissa was the reason I won. He ended up on 10 points. I was allowed to pick him because he was under 5%, and at the time I didn't own him. And that home game against Ipswich, goal, assist, and 1 bonus for taking 10 points. Kulusevski started for Tottenham, got 63 minutes, but also got a booking, so ended up on 1, taking me to 11, which was enough to beat Rashford's 1 point because he got an early substitution before 60 minutes, and then Rutter, who got an assist. But that was that. So Matt got 6, I got 11, takes the scores to 4-4. I did have some options this week, just in case you're playing along with this and you want to know who we would have went for. Unfortunately, me and Matt didn't get the chance to chat it through, which is why we need to postpone it. But when I wrote these slides, the people I would look at, I think the big standout is Cunha. He's 3.2% owned, so he qualifies. He's at home to Crystal Palace, and he's coming on the back of 3 goals in 5 games. So I think he'd be an interesting one. I'd also look at Archer, which feels weird to be picking Archer. But again, he's at home to Everton. Everton's defence is shoring up a bit, but still, Southampton could be a decent punt. He's 2.4% on, I'd say, 2 goals in his last 3 games. And other than that, maybe Darwin Núñez didn't get the push in the cup, so you've got to think that means that Slot is probably going to start him at the weekend. 2.2% own. He's going to be playing as the number 9, and he's at home to Brighton. Seems a sure starter. Doesn't seem to be going through him, the Liverpool goals. It'd be interesting to know who plays on the left, because Diaz and Gakpo both played and started in the cup. But you're going to have Salah, you're going to have Diaz, and then another. But yeah, I think if Matt would have picked Cunha or Archer ahead of me, I'd have probably took the punt on Darwin Núñez. So if you are playing along, let me know in the comments. Who did you pick? Did you match Cunha, Archer, Núñez, or did you go for somebody else? I did have Savinho, but obviously he's just been stretching off in the Tottenham game. So yeah, that pulls him out. Looking at Matt's team, a couple of things he's thinking of. He's got 2 free transfers in the locker, and it all depends on the injuries. So looking at Son, looking at Gabriel, let's hear the updates, and based on that information, he'll make his decision. If it turns out that they are both okay, and you're probably back in a game week, maybe 2 at a push, he'll probably just roll, is what he said. And it comes into thought number 2 here. General lesson, don't use free transfers unless it's an obvious transfer. And he's looking at his squad and thinking, well, if Son's out, he's got Rogers, Semenyo, Foden, and Mbeumo, which he's fairly happy with. If Gabriel's out, he can bring on Van der Berg, and just go with it that way. He doesn't need the field to force a transfer. He's rarely unhappy that he used 3 transfers last game week. and feels, or the week before, should I say, and just feels it stopped a lot of his options. As I mentioned before, he's looking at Haaland move, but probably in game week 12. But he's just very cautious of Salah and those two pens covering his data, so he doesn't know where he'll go with the money. Could be Salah, could end up keeping Haaland, but he is very much open to the move and selling him for some cash to bring somebody else in. From my side, one free transfer for me only because I did use my two free transfers last week. 1.8 million in the bank, which is nice to have. Again, for me, I'll wait on Gabriel. If that's a long-term injury, I'll go Nori. I think just because I feel like that 8 weeks is a solid long-term hold. It'll then give me more money to put in the bank. I'll end up having a roughly 3.5 million, which I feel like I can do some nice things with because Madison and, as I say, Madison and Calvert-Lewin are really doing my head in. So could do something there with 3.5 million on top of them to bring in. Madison could go to Saka, Calvert-Lewin, or Madison could go to Bruno if United start hitting some form. DCL could quite easily go to Cunha if I wanted that to be the case. And I desperately want Salah. Matt is trying to put me off it, but I desperately want him. Maybe that's the Liverpool fan in me, but there's no obvious route to him other than selling Haaland, and I'd need to use two transfers, so that isn't going to happen. So I think the likelihood is I'll roll, unless I hear Gabriel's a long-term injury, and then he'll be out probably for Nori, potentially for Dallo. That leaves me with a team of Edison and goal away at Bournemouth, a back three of Aina, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and if Gabriel isn't fit, I'll probably start Mikalenko, who was away at Southampton. I don't hate that as an option. I prefer that as opposed to Van der Ven, who was away at Fulham. Sorry, Van der Berg even, who was away at Fulham. I feel like, yes, Fulham are a decent side at home, attacking wise. Southampton, hopefully, there's a clean sheet in that for Milenko. Across the midfield, Palmer away at Man United. Fulham away from Mbuma, which is fine. I'm not overly happy that Rodgers and Madison are playing each other, but they are both teams, Villa and Tottenham, that do concede. So I'll just stick with it. Madison's an interesting one. I think he's going out of favour, but he didn't start in the cup, which I hope means he'll start at the weekend. Now, it was quite a strong side from Tottenham in the cup. So I don't know whether I'm just looking at that and thinking, right, that's my best 11. I'm playing Man City in the League Cup. I've told people I win a trophy in my second season, and that's my top 11. And if so, I might need to start panicking because that means Madison's probably going to be benched again. But my gut tells me Madison will probably start. Um, yeah, so that's what I'm hoping anyway. And then Rodgers wasn't even in the Villa squad. That was very much a rest thing. Same with what will happen with Watkins. So Rodgers will start. So I just need to hope that's an absolute goal fest, and Rodgers and Madison are heavily involved. And then up front, frustrating Calvert-Lewin away at Southampton. It's a nice fixture. I don't, I'd be forcing him out if I did anything. Him to Cunha does feel nice as a move, but yeah, I think I'll just be forcing it. I'll roll the transfer and reassess my options with two free transfers next week. Whistle away. Hopefully he doesn't score any more goals that are given to somebody else, and he just gets the assist this week away at Fulham. And then I'll end up captaining Haaland away at Bournemouth because I don't have Salah. I just feel like from the fixtures of those front seven, it's only really an attacking player I'm gonna captain. He's probably got the best. I'd be interested in Palmer or in Bumo, but yeah, Fulham can play, and Man United are on a bounce. So I've just got back Haaland away at Bournemouth, and hope that their Bournemouth's defence isn't up to the job, I guess. But that brings us to the end. Very quick one today because Matt isn't with me, so just thought I'd give you a brief overview just to keep something on the cards. But hopefully it's been worth your while. Some data from Fix as always to share and get you thinking about the thoughts around your own teams. But yeah, Matt will be back with me next week. We've been messaging, and it will either be on Monday or Thursday. So look out for them next week ahead of game week 11. We'll be back with Matt versus Dave. Hopefully it'll become 5 for me. Hopefully. I lost last season. So remember in game week 19, I have to captain a defender. And I've looked at the fixtures and it's horrific for defenders. So I'm not excited about that at all. But yeah, we'll be back with that. Matt's ideas, Matt's team reveal, my team reveal. And we'll catch up with you there. But thank you for joining me on this Thursday evening. All the best with the game week ahead. I wish you all many, many green arrows for the rest of the season to come. And me and Matt will catch up with you next week. Until then, all